Hi everyone, good morning. This is Shannon with J&S King Family Farm, and today I'm starting seeds. It's that time of year. We're using soil blocks. If you're not sure what soil blocks are, or you want to give them a try, check our previous video. It has complete directions on how to make soil blocks, why I like them. They're really easy and they take up so much less space. So today we're going to start some kale. And this is winter boar, which is my favorite. It grows really well here. We're in 3B, and this particular seed will grow right through the season, and you can still harvest this at Christmas time. Dig it out of the snow, harvest. Way to go. And it just keeps going. It's fantastic for this area. Super, super hardy. The package here says that there's 35 to 40 seeds. We also really like this company, William Dam. We've had really great germination with their products, and they also sell only untreated seeds. So I'm going to move the camera down. You're going to be able to see me put these in soil blocks, and then we're going to put them on heat for probably, this says germinates in 7 days. Probably won't take that long. I find things in soil blocks tend to germinate almost half the time. So we're going to put them on heat, and probably by the weekend they'll have popped, take them off the heat under the grow lights, and away we go. So I'm just going to move the camera, and there you go. So these are the soil blocks, and I've put 40 on this tray. The package says there's 35 to 40 seeds in here. So I'll just remove whatever seeds we don't, whatever soil blocks we don't use. And these are 3/4 inch soil blocks. And they come out of this very little small soil blocker. You can see it's just a 3/4 inch. And we may bump these up into a 2-inch block before they end up actually getting planted. So these are pretty easy to, oh, there's still a couple in there. These are pretty easy to get a hold of, and you don't have to use a pencil. But like in the previous video, I'm just going to dampen the end of the pencil. You can see I've picked up the seed there, and we're just going to stick it in the soil block. And that's it. So again, so we started using soil blocks here about 4 years ago. And it was a complete game changer for us. We used to start everything in the 72 cell trays, which is what most people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. They do work. They are kind of big though. And if you're growing indoors under lights, you're not going to get as much going in the same amount of space. So I prefer the soil blocks, and we were able to just start so much more. So, and I really like them for seeds that really, they want to sit on the surface. They like light to germinate. I find the soil blocks really hold the moisture well, and they work really well for things that don't particularly enjoy being transplanted. There just isn't the same transplant shock. So for something like cucumbers, which really don't like their roots disturbed, I highly recommend starting in a 2-inch soil block, and you just keep them in there for about 2 weeks. Oh, well, we'll leave that one over there. And away you go. You just separate them and plant them, and the plants just take right off. They don't have to uncircle their roots and get used to the soil. They just dig their roots right out into the fresh soil, and away they go. So this kale will probably get planted out. Today is the 22nd of March. So these are probably going to go out second week of April at the latest. They'll be big enough. And again, they're really tough, so after a bit of hardening off, they'll just take right off, and it won't be an issue. they'll take a little bit of the cold. If it's going to get really cold, like maybe down -5, I'd probably put some frost fleece over them, like an Ag 19, which you can pick up at places as simple as the dollar store, or you can buy it at Halifax Seed, which we really enjoy dealing with Halifax Seed. They have great products and really great service. So, and they have a store in St. John as well as one down in Halifax. So this is actually looking like we might have a full 40 seeds. Yes, indeed, we have a full 40 seeds. So this tray, I was expecting to actually have to take some of the soil blocks off. There's not as much room around this tray for you to flood it with water. So I might transport the seeds onto a bigger tray. But for now, that's that. They're done. So for us, we like to take the name of the product, which is kale, and then it's winter boar hybrid. We're going to write that right on the side of the tray here, and we're going to write the sowing date so that we know exactly when these were started, and there's no question, and we know when we can expect them to pop. So now that we've done those, I also have today, I have some other stuff I'm going to start. I have some jalapeno peppers. We really like these. They do well here. I start them in the 3/4 inch block, and they will get bumped up into a 2-inch block, which is this one here. And you can really see the size difference. They're going to get bumped up probably in about 3 weeks. And they can grow on in this. And then when we're ready to transplant outside in a high tunnel, straight from this right into the ground, we won't bump them up again. For sales, if I was going to sell them in a 4-inch pot, I would go from the 3/4 inch block and move them on to the pot that we're going to sell them in. So the other thing we're going to start today are some Snapdragons. And I love Snapdragons. These are great. We use these for our cut flower production, and we grow a ridiculous amount of them, and they're so easy, and they like it cold. These are also going to get planted out probably the 3rd week of April. At the very latest, they're going to go in the ground by the end of April. And the seeds are so tiny, so they really do well in the soil blocks. So I'll actually open this up. So this one is Potomac White. And they just have, this particular variety has a really great flower head on it. This is the one most people are used to seeing, is the Rocket Mix, and this is what you would buy at your local greenhouse. And again, fabulous, really tough. If you cut the deadhead these and you keep cutting the blooms off, they're going to bloom for you right until there's snow on the ground. They like it cold. They don't care. They're actually going to slow down blooming in midsummer because they don't really like the super stinking heat. So we highly recommend these. But so here's 100 of these Potomac seeds. And I'm going to put them into this tray so you can see them, because they're dust. So these require a little more focus to get planted. But that's it. You can hardly see them. But that's them right there. And this is a little tiny seed, and this is going to turn into a 36-inch to 40-inch high plant. So I'm going to grab another tray here, and I'm not going to start all these at once. I don't tend to. I like to succession plant them a little bit. So here we are. We've got our soil. It's all mixed up. Again, you can look at our previous video on how you just get that well packed. And I'm actually going to push it to the side a bit so we have somewhere to pour the water. Just, there we go. That's it. That's 20. We're going to give these some room. So we're going to do 40 of the white today, and that will do for now. And then we'll do the rest of them probably in about 3 weeks. And then when these ones slow down in their blooming for us, the next round is going to start picking up seeds. So this is where the pencil comes in really handy. And these are just, they're so hard to see. I think you can get these pelleted, but again, William Dam doesn't sell their seeds with any kind of treatment on them. So you don't generally get pelleted seed from them. So here we go. You just see if I can, there it is. See how tiny that is? It's like smaller than a poppy seed. So we're just transferring these over. And that's what we're up to today. And it's that time of year. I hope everybody's starting seeds and preparing for spring. I know it doesn't look like spring out there, but it's coming. I promise. It's really coming. I figure probably here, maybe by the end of the week into the middle of next week, most of our snow is going to disappear. There's still going to be some in the hedgerows and in the shady spots, and of course the great big snowbanks we have, but I think most of it will be gone. The real key with putting stuff in the ground early, and I don't think I've mentioned it before, is you really need to prep your beds in the fall. So that's how I manage to plant things as early as I do. If you see where I put the seed there. If you prep your beds in the fall and tarp them, as soon as the snow is almost gone, you can actually plant right into it because it won't be soaking wet, and you don't have to work your soil because you've already prepped it. If you work wet, heavy soil, you will destroy your soil structure for the rest of the season. It's really hard to get it back from that. So by the time you wait for your soil to dry out, it's almost too late to plant a lot of things. So it's really, I recommend starting doing your bed prep in the fall. I'm losing track of what I'm doing here. There we go. So that's how because people wonder how we get stuff out of the harvested so early, and that's how we do it. We prep our beds in the fall. Everything's ready to go. Now these seeds, these also like a bit of light to germinate. They don't really like being pushed, buried in the snow, in the soil. So you're going to sit on top. The thing you need to watch out for is when you water, you don't want to blow your seeds away. So it's really important to put your water on the edge and flood it and let it soak up in, which is the other reason I like the soil blocks, is these just really readily absorb water. And once these guys pop up, we're going to fertilize them once a week. Really give them a good head start. The only other thing you might have problems with is fungus gnats, and I know lots of people have talked about it, and they're like, I'm not using this soil because it comes with fungus gnats. And fungus gnats, I mean, they're everywhere, and they come with having moist soil around. So the thing with the soil blocks is you want to make sure that the room that you've got them in is warm enough, and you've got them on a heat pad to get them started, that when you go to water the blocks in the morning, they're dry. They should be dry or almost completely dry. And then you have less issues with fungus gnats than you would otherwise. If you do end up with fungus gnats, you'll see them in the soil. They're like little tiny worms, and they will destroy your roots on your plant. And then they turn into little flies, and then they start laying eggs, and then you've got a whole cycle going on. So what we use once a week just to stay ahead of them is what's called natural. It's Gnatrol, natural. It's harder to find in Canada. They tend to call it, it works the same as mosquito dunks, which are easier to find. I think you can find those at Canadian Tire. But if you go on eBay, you can get natural. And you just dissolve it in your water once a week. Not the same day you fertilize. And here we go. So there's 40 of those. So we're just going to stick these on a heat mat after we label them. And these should pop. So the back of this says, right here, it says that the germination is 7 to 15 days. These usually pop for me in 7 days on heat. The heat is the really, really important part. So we use these mats here. You just set it on top, and I can get a whole bunch of them on as soon as they pop off the mat under the lights. So we really like the heat mats. I mean, this is what we use. I'm pretty sure I picked this one up at Home Hardware, which is our local hardware store. I've seen them at Walmart. I've seen them online. If you're doing a whole lot and you want to get a 4x8 one that's the size of your whole table, you can do that. I use 3 of these little ones. That's all I need for my production. And they just make a world of difference. If you don't have that, you can try a heating pad. But the problem with them is I think they just heat up too much. So you might want to put your mat down and then put a cooling rack on top of that and then put your seeds. So there's a bit of a buffer and they don't get too hot, because I mean, you don't want to cook them. They like it warm, but you don't want to cook them. So you put your seeds onto the heat mat, 7 days, they'll pop. When 75-80% of your tray has popped under the lights. Otherwise, you end up with really leggy seedlings, and that causes a whole bunch of other issues. That you can get issues with damping off. They don't tend to have really strong stems, so when they get hit with the wind, they just knock over and they fold that stem over, and that's the end of them. They can't bring up nutrients. They can't drink. So yeah, so that's what we're doing today. We're starting seeds. Again, we really, really like William Dam seeds here. Most of my seeds come from here. We do buy a few things from Vessie's, couple of particular items that I can't find elsewhere, but most of our seeds come from here because we've just had really, really great customer service and really great germination with their seeds. So I guess that's it for today. So thanks for watching, and good luck with your seed starting.